to revenge with Lyra.
I wish you were never born. Those 6 words didn't come from a stranger. They came from my own mother. Her voice was cold, steady, like she'd been saving that sentence for years. I froze. The laughter around the dinner table died instantly. My sister, Celeste, smirked over her wine glass, like the queen finally got her decree. Mom leaned back in her chair, her pearls glinting under the light. You were always just extra, Emily. A burden. Celeste was born for greatness. You were born for lessons. I felt something in me shatter, quietly but completely. My hands trembled on the tablecloth. My husband, Michael, looked at me, eyes wide, waiting for me to break down, maybe to fight back. But I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. I simply said, "Then consider me dead." I stood up, walked out of that house, and didn't turn back even when Mom shouted, "Don't you dare walk away from me." The door clicked behind me like a coffin sealing shut. Outside, the night air hit me hard, sharp, cold, electric. The old Emily, the one desperate for approval, died in that moment. And as I got into my car, I whispered to my reflection, "You'll regret saying that, Mom." Not through my words, through my silence. The engine roared to life, and so did my plan. The one that would make my mother wish she'd stayed silent instead. 2 weeks passed without a single call, message, or word from my mother. It didn't surprise me. In her world, silence was punishment, and I was supposed to crawl back, apologize for overreacting. But not this time. I, Emily Hartman, was done being the family's punching bag. Every childhood memory replayed in my head like a cruel movie. Celeste getting piano lessons, I got chores. Celeste getting a car at 17, I got a lecture about gratitude. Even in photos, I was the shadow, the extra. When Dad died, Mom made it worse. "You're not built like him," she'd said coldly. "He had ambition. You just have emotions." That sentence haunted me through college, through every job rejection, every sleepless night spent proving I wasn't a mistake. So I stopped trying to prove anything. I focused on building something quietly, something she'd never see coming. A year ago, I started my own interior design company. No loans, no help. Just long nights, broken nails, and stubborn belief. By the time Mom said those words, "I wish you were never born," I was already successful.
She just didn't know it yet.
But she was about to. Because Celeste was planning her dream home reveal next month, a mansion that Mom bragged about as if she'd built it herself. Only problem? Celeste's contractor was me. And I had access to every key, every blueprint, every contract. I smiled. Consider me dead? Fine, Mom. Let's see how ghosts haunt. The morning of the reveal, I arrived early at Celeste's mansion, the one she kept calling her achievement. I designed every inch of it. The marble staircase, the ocean view patio, even the crystal chandelier that now hung like a spotlight for hypocrisy. Mom was already there, dressed in pastel silk, barking orders at the caterers. When she saw me, her smile faltered for just a second.
"Oh.
You came," she said, as if I were an uninvited stranger at my own project. "Yes," I replied calmly. "I wanted to see your dream come true." Celeste floated down the stairs in her white dress, her husband trailing behind like a proud prop. "Emily, don't break anything, okay?" she teased, her voice dripping with sugar-coated cruelty. I smiled. "Don't worry. I already broke something, just not what you think." Mom rolled her eyes. "Still bitter, Emily? You really should get help. Not everyone can be special." That's when I handed the event manager a small silver envelope. "Deliver this to Celeste right before the speeches." She glanced at me, confused, but nodded. As guests poured in, photographers flashed, and Mom raised her glass for a toast, I stepped back, my phone already recording. Because inside that envelope wasn't a gift card, it was a truth bomb tied to a legal document. And when Celeste opened it in front of everyone, her smile would collapse, along with everything they built on lies. The music faded, and the guests gathered around the grand dining table. Mom stood beside Celeste, glowing like she'd just won an award. "Everyone," she announced, My brilliant daughter, Celeste, finally has the home she deserves. She's proof that ambition pays off, unlike some people. Laughter rippled through the room. I didn't flinch. I just watched as the event manager approached Celeste with a silver envelope, placing it gently in her manicured hands. "What's this?" Celeste asked, half laughing, half curious. I took a sip of champagne. "A surprise," I said softly. She tore it open, and for the first time that night, the room went completely silent. Inside was a stack of legal ownership papers. My company's name, Hartman Design and Holdings, was listed as the sole property owner of the house. The deed was in my name, not hers. Celeste's face drained of color. This must be a mistake," she stammered, flipping through the pages. Mom frowned, snatching them. "What kind of joke is this, Emily?" "No joke," I said, stepping forward. When Celeste missed 3 payments on the renovation, the clause transferred ownership to my firm. "Legally, this house is mine." Gasps erupted. Cameras clicked. Mom's glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the marble floor. Celeste turned to her husband, trembling. "You told me you paid it off." He didn't answer. I met Mom's wide, shaking eyes and smiled coldly. "You wanted a daughter to be proud of? Congratulations. You finally have won." The silence after my words was heavier than the chandelier above us. Mom's mouth opened and closed, no sound coming out, just shock. Celeste's husband tried to step in, but his voice cracked. "Emily, we can work this out." "No," I interrupted. "You've worked me out for years. It's time I reclaim what's mine." Celeste's hands trembled as she flipped through the final page of the deed, the part that showed her signature, notarized, dated. She'd signed the transfer clause herself. "I don't understand," she whispered, collapsing into a chair. I took a slow step toward her. "You should have read before you signed, Celeste. You were too busy comparing your reflection to mine." Mom's fury finally found her voice. "You schemed this. You tricked your sister?" I met her glare with calm precision.
No, Mom.
"I protected myself. The same way you should have protected both your daughters equally." Guests were whispering now, pulling out their phones. Someone murmured, "She owned the house this whole time?" The sound was a storm, rumors forming like thunderclouds. Mom's social mask began to crack. "You'll regret this, Emily," she hissed. "You can't humiliate your own family in public." I smiled faintly. "I'm not humiliating anyone, Mom. I'm just finishing the story you started." Celeste burst into tears, her makeup streaking down her cheeks. Mom tried to comfort her, but Celeste pushed her away. For the first time, the golden family she'd worshipped began to crumble right in front of her. The reporters outside the mansion didn't miss a second. Someone had already leaked the footage. My calm voice, Celeste's meltdown, and Mom's humiliation were now circling social media like wildfire. By midnight, headlines read, "Local socialite loses luxury home to her sister. Legal twist stuns guests." I watched from my penthouse balcony, the city lights reflecting on my wine glass. Every notification on my phone was another reminder that silence could be louder than rage. The next morning, Celeste called me. Her voice was trembling. "Emily, please. Mom hasn't stopped crying. Reporters are outside. They're saying I forged papers." I let the silence stretch. "Did you?" She didn't answer, just sobbed quietly. "You ruined me," she whispered. I closed my eyes.
No, Celeste.
"You ruined yourself." I just stopped pretending not to notice. That same afternoon, I got an email from a corporate investor. They'd seen the viral clip and wanted to partner with Hartman Design and Holdings. My small company was now in headlines, and suddenly, I wasn't the forgotten daughter anymore. Mom tried calling later, but I didn't answer. I just watched the phone vibrate on the table until it went silent. That silence felt sacred. It was the sound of a woman reborn, not through revenge, but through truth. For once, their cruelty had bought me freedom, and I wasn't selling it back. 3 days later, I walked past the cafe downtown and saw Mom sitting by the window. No pearls, no smile, no audience. Just a small cup of cold coffee and shame written across her face. She looked older, smaller, like the weight of her pride had finally crushed her spine. For a moment, I almost walked in. Old habits die hard, after all. But then I remembered her words. You were always just extra. I kept walking. That night, I got a voicemail from Dad's old attorney, a man who'd handled our family estate years ago. Ms. Hartman, he said, there's been an update. Your mother is requesting a financial mediator. It seems she can't keep up with her debts after the fallout. I stared at the city skyline from my office window and exhaled. Karma was on schedule. Later, I met Michael for dinner. He smiled when he saw me finally relaxed. You did it, Em, he said. You didn't just get even, you got free. I smiled faintly. Free feels strange, doesn't it? Like breathing air you didn't know you'd been missing.
He reached for my hand.
You earned every breath. Still, a small ache tugged at me. Not guilt, just grief for the mother I wished I'd had. I raised my glass and whispered to myself, to the unloved daughters, may our silence speak louder than their cruelty. Outside, lightning flashed. Inside, peace settled like dawn after years of rain. A month later, I got a letter, handwritten, shaky, from my mother. The first line stopped me cold. Emily, for the first time in my life, I watched you instead of criticizing you, and I finally saw who you are. She went on about Celeste's breakdown, the investors pulling out, and how the world she'd built on appearances had collapsed overnight. But between the regret and excuses, there was something new: surrender. I used to think control was love. I thought molding you would protect you. But I see now, I only broke what was already whole. You didn't destroy this family, Emily. You revealed it. For a long time, I just sat there, holding the letter. No tears. No triumph. Just a quiet, bittersweet understanding that justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it whispers. I didn't call her.
Not yet.
But I folded the letter neatly and placed it in a small box labeled truths I needed to hear. The next morning, I stood on the balcony of my beach house. My beach house, the same kind my mother once mocked me for never owning. The ocean stretched wide and endless before me, a mirror of freedom. I whispered into the wind, I forgive you, Mom, but I'll never shrink again. Then I smiled, slipped on my sunglasses, and walked back inside.